I'm excited to have a conversation today with each of you about the intricacies, impact, and implementation of one of my favorite topics, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. But before we get into it, I just want to say how wonderful it is to get to be here in Colorado as we kickstart the 2022 GEOINT Symposium. I know many of you were in St. Louis just a few months ago for the last symposium, and here we are again. I think that getting back to a springtime date for these great summits of geospatial talent is going to work out really well. Even though we're only midway through what typically would have been a year-long buildup to the next event, so much has changed in our industry and in the world. I am honored to speak to all of you today as the Deputy Director of NGA, knowing that we have so many friends, partners, and innovators, leaders, who make up this community. GEOINT professionals, like all of you, are incredibly unique and integral to the entire ecosystem that we work across. The effort, dedication, and will to support each other is what makes this part of the IC so satisfying to work in and lead. And we cannot do it or sustain it without a strategy to inject fresh talent and skill. As you may have heard from the CIA's Jennifer Eubank earlier today, the choice is simple: innovate or be left behind. It's fitting that we're here today on April 24th, which happens to be the anniversary of a famous scientific achievement. On April 24th, 1990, a new era in space exploration was born when the Hubble Space Telescope was launched into orbit. It marked a new era of space exploration and opened the door to new ideas about capturing imagery. So today, 32 years later to the day, I'm excited to talk with all of you about how much we at NGA are deeply involved in several key aspects of STEM education and its advancement for all of our future GEOINT leaders who will come from so many different diverse backgrounds. NGA is at the intersection of all things STEM. Our research scientists, technology innovators, engineering experts, and math whizzes all collaborate to provide the world's best GEOINT to our partners, decision makers, and warfighters, those who need the information to be sound, reliable, and available when they need it. But GEOINT is more than NGA. It's all of you too. And collectively, we have an opportunity to provide a boost to our future STEM pipeline. Our campus recruitment strategy includes 12 colleges and universities that have a geomatic focus, with 3 that are categorized as large STEM schools: MIT, Georgia Tech, and Purdue. But one area where we see a tremendous opportunity to shape the future is in our communities that are underrepresented in STEM. One way we hope to shape our future is by reaching out to and establishing relationships with diversity-focused STEM professional organizations, including the Society of Women Engineers, the Society of Asian Scientists and Engineers, the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, and Out in STEM, or OSTEM. This can pay dividends in a number of ways. Most importantly, by making sure that these organizations know what NGA does and the opportunities we can provide. For the same reasons, we take pride in engaging with minority-serving institutions, tribal colleges and universities, Asian American and Pacific Islander-serving institutions, historically Black colleges and universities, and Hispanic-serving institutions. Frankly, we operate in an environment where NGA and GEOINT must have input from all of these communities and others in order to adapt to a changing world landscape. Without the perspective of all of us, we will fall behind. And we are determined not to fall behind. So we do our best to support our underserved communities in different ways, including outreach to various communities and populations. Now, before I get into how we are forming and nurturing a pipeline of talent, I want to give you a little background from my perspective on how and why STEM shaped Tonya Wilkerson. I have always loved math and science, and as a high schooler, decided that a good way to combine these interests was through pursuing a degree and career in engineering. Now, it's important to note that I did not have a lot of insight into engineering as a career path, and despite living in the Washington metropolitan area, had not really considered a career in the intelligence community. So you may be wondering, how did I end up in the intelligence community? Well, through my high school principal, I was introduced to a CIA officer who was looking to identify minority students interested in STEM to participate in the Stokes Undergraduate Scholar Program, which was designed to increase the number of minorities working in the intelligence community. I headed off to Virginia Tech to study and spent my summers working at CIA. While at Virginia Tech, I was introduced to the National Society of Black Engineers, a collegiate and professional organization whose mission statement is to increase the number of culturally Black engineers who excel academically, succeed professionally, and positively impact the community. NSBE provided a support system of similarly focused students. Upon entering on duty, I was fortunate enough to be assigned to the NRO and spent many years working the GEOINT mission, from research and development to acquisition, systems engineering, and operations. My path to STEM in the IC was definitely influenced by leaders just like you and me, who thought it important enough to invest time in seeking out an African-American female student living in a rural area just outside of Washington, D.C., who loved math and science and aspired to be an engineer. My personal experience has highlighted for me the importance of raising awareness of STEM and STEM careers to students across all ages and backgrounds. More than 30 years later, I continue to be excited about this opportunity to serve in our community. And I pay it forward personally by continuing to engage in developing the next generation of STEM talent as an advisor for a NSBE Junior chapter working with K-12 students. At NGA, it is crucial and beneficial for our success as an agency to support, enhance, and grow representation of STEM talent. Some members of the next generation of GEOINT professionals are in elementary school today, with the future seemingly so far off to them. Some are in middle school, preparing for a science fair. And some are just now figuring out what they want to do after high school as they fill out their college applications. For many, however, that's too late. Research shows that once a student makes it to college without a formed path to pursue a STEM-based career, the likelihood of them actually doing so diminishes greatly. So getting these students at the K-12 range engaged with STEM is crucial to what comes next in college. But how are we seeing engagement in STEM grow at these younger ages? And how is NGA impacting that? And what happens when you factor in a community that is defined as underserved? While many of our future STEM leaders who have been touched by the STEM bug are matriculating from top districts across the country, including right here in the Denver area, many of them are beginning their STEM journeys from schools in underserved communities. Communities come in all different shapes and sizes, and locations and populations too. Kids from wide open rural locales can face the same type of accessibility issues to STEM products, support, and instruction as those who come from densely populated urban communities. And we know that there are barriers that prevent many talented minds from all walks of life, spanning racial, economic, and other communities from maximizing their potential. But for this particular part of my discussion, I would like to draw upon what I have learned through my experience, working to grow the pipeline of diverse STEM talent, and talk specifically about what Black and African American children are often dealing with. Research indicates that the STEM pipeline begins as early as kindergarten, where differences in the average test scores of different communities, including within the Black and African American community, can already be seen. Think about that. 5-year-old African American children are already starting off their pathway behind the curve. How is that possible? I know every underrepresented group is facing challenges and needs to find a way to meet those challenges. One person whose work I find especially interesting in this regard is Dr. Dalian Tolbert-Smith. Dr. Tolbert-Smith is an assistant professor of industrial and manufacturing systems engineering at the University of Michigan's Dearborn campus. She's an engineer and active in NSBE just like me. And also like me, she's highly motivated to find out some of the reasons why these deficits are happening, how to mitigate them, and see more African American youth lean into STEM. Last year, she was awarded a grant from the National Science Foundation to study STEM deficits in Black and African American youth. She's especially interested in looking at ways Black families are already acting as cultural assets. I'm sure there's similar work going on in other represented communities, and if there isn't, there should be. One big culprit she found, well, she's found that many young Black children are not set up for success due to lack of exposure to STEM at a young age, which is often, but not always, due to their family's lack of exposure to STEM, and so on down the line. And so it shows in STEM scores, which ends up seeing Black students often steering away from STEM almost immediately. Of course, it's not just the Black and African American communities that see these disparities and have these barriers, but it's evident that this particular community does have a documented disadvantage. So what is NGA doing about it? Increasing diversity in STEM. We're looking everywhere for what's next in our STEM outreach. One location that I'd like to highlight is the city where we are building our new Western headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri. Why is this important? The community surrounding the new facility is a valued partner of NGA's. Kids today are seeing the building go up, and I hope they will want to be a part of the future workforce. We're going to be in St. Louis for a while and are going to be neighbors, partners, and collaborators, no matter what, based on geography alone. And the surrounding, predominantly African American community is strong and capable. We would be remiss if we didn't make an effort to cultivate the amazing talent in this area. Talent that comes from all walks of life, to help fill some of our positions, including STEM positions with very unique requirements. Additionally, local community leaders also know that there will be an influx of STEM-based job opportunities being integrated into the DNA of that region. Jobs that are going to permanently exist and persist. So the community is well positioned and preparing for the growth of these STEM opportunities. So NGA and the community have a vested interest to work together to mentor and coach up the local talent. And while it's not the only place or community where we are focusing our efforts, our STEM outreach in the St. Louis area and the surrounding communities naturally takes on an even greater emphasis as we get closer to flipping on the lights in 2025 at our new facility in the Gateway City. So prudently, NGA is teaming with community leaders in St. Louis to develop a pipeline of talent that will fuel the future of GEOINT in the years to come. I also want to talk about how NGA is spending a lot of time growing relationships with key universities in the St. Louis region in order to nurture that pipeline. Specifically, NGA has worked to become more involved at the university level in the growth of STEM-based curriculum development, with an end goal of increasing our geospatial trained talent pool in our college-age students. To formalize this process and grow that pipeline even more, NGA has developed education partnership agreements, EPAs for short, to support the growth of this distinctive talent pool across St. Louis and its surrounding communities. Today, we have formal agreements in place at Harris-Stowe State University and at the University of Missouri, St. Louis. This is a logical progression in the process. Again, homegrown talent. Harris-Stowe is a particular focus for our discussion today. Our EPA with them is the first one we've established with the specific focus of geospatial curriculum development. It's one of our nation's HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities. We've been working with them to create a diversified portfolio of certificate programs based on GEOINT to help prepare graduates for a career with NGA and its commercial partners. Although still in development, these certificate programs are focused around an introduction to foundational geomatics, introduction to GEOINT, and GEOINT for urban planning. These courses will not only prepare Harris-Stowe students for multiple GEOINT-related fields, but begin the process of Harris-Stowe being able to provide future educators with the knowledge needed to be better prepared to teach geospatial-based content. The EPA with University of Missouri St. Louis, which is the most diverse campus in the University of Missouri system, was signed last fall. And while it too will focus on curriculum development, it's also designed to support and facilitate tours and demonstrations for students and faculty at unclassified facilities. It will also suggest research projects suitable for student participation and could provide internship opportunities for students and sabbaticals for faculty members. Here's what really matters. People are going to associate NGA with St. Louis. But when we think about St. Louis, they're going to think about STEM education and opportunities too. Bottom line, we all win when NGA and STEM are deep-rooted into the very DNA of St. Louis. But we complete the process when St. Louis's talent and culture are brought to NGA. NGA has also established another line of growth for our GEOINT talent pipeline, Cooperative Research and Development Agreements, or CRADAs. We use CRADAs to collaborate with commercial companies, universities, and other non-federal entities on joint research and development projects. CRADAs help both entities understand mutual needs and support exchange of innovative ideas and solutions. One great example of a CRADA is right here at the University of Colorado Boulder. NGA and CU Boulder have established a CRADA to serve NGA's research needs. These include collaboration on methane gas detection, atmospheric profiling using Maxar's CAVIS data, sea ice monitoring, computer vision, visualization of electro-optical imagery in the non-visible regions, and space weather and space domain awareness. So these tasks have already started a relationship with CU Boulder, a level 1 research institution, to enhance solutions to relevant NGA research needs. This CRADA also serves as a model to engage with the already well-established Colorado space and research community. In an effort to improve the relevance of the work to NGA, the CRADA even allows for limited classified work to be performed. It's a superb example of a collaboration that also works to build a region-specific pipeline for future GEOINT analysts, imagery analysts, data scientists, geodesy scientists, and all kinds of other STEM experts we need. But it's not just St. Louis or Colorado where NGA is looking to grow geospatial STEM talent. NGA is deeply committed to diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. And we've established an EPA with the nation's preeminent secondary institution for the deaf and hard of hearing community, Gallaudet University in Washington, D.C. As part of our EPA, NGA recently conducted a virtual recruitment event with Gallaudet, where we gave students briefings on the NGA Persons with Disabilities Program, Workforce Recruitment Program, student programs, and reasonable accommodations. And our Deaf and Hard of Hearing Council, one of several special emphasis programs we have in place to promote diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, conducted a panel with Gallaudet students talking about their experiences as alumni and their work experiences at NGA. To further broaden our push for STEM growth, we are searching across the neurodiverse and autism spectrum as well. CBS Morning News recently aired a segment on our neurodiverse federal workforce pilot program. I hope you all had a chance to see it last Thursday. For those of you who may not be aware, April is Autism Acceptance Month. And at NGA, we have come to understand that neurodiversity and being on the autism spectrum is not only not a barrier to employment, but in some environments, a benefit or even an advantage. We now know that some people who are neurodiverse possess incredible attention to detail that allows them to process and analyze concepts like patterns and imagery at an incredible, and for GEOINT purposes, useful rate. One of our graduates from the Neurodiverse Federal Workforce Pilot Program, who is now a full-time analyst with us, was profiled in the story. And I was very fortunate to be able to speak to CBS about our work to support this effort at NGA. Admiral Sharp is going to talk a little more about this tomorrow, but the goal is to create a template for recruiting neurodiverse talent for U.S. federal government agencies. We couldn't be happier to be part of this process. So today, we put a lot out there. STEM education is our lifeblood. And the better we are at identifying and supporting that talent at an early point along that journey, the better we will be down the road. The next generation of STEM leadership looks like America and fell in love with math in the 5th grade and is Black, brown, white, Asian, and American Indian, female, hearing, and deaf, abled, differently abled, and neurodiverse, straight, and gay, from an inner city and a rural area. And as I said, they look like America. And I can't wait to see what they do next. While I'm excited and laser focused on all of the things that NGA can bring to our future STEM leaders, what's even more important is what all of our future STEM leaders across America, with all of their diverse backgrounds and unique journeys, can bring to NGA. And of course, it's on all of us to lead the charge in bringing STEM opportunities to all of our kids who deserve the chance to bring innovation and creativity to the table. To touch on another concept from Jennifer's discussion earlier today, she noted, we must never think about matching our adversaries in the digital landscape. We must aim to outpace them, keep moving, and keep innovating so as to maintain a competitive advantage. Well, the cat is out of the bag. Growing our STEM pipeline through diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility is NGA's secret weapon. It's the advantage that puts us in a position to win. I'm going to leave you with some words of wisdom that have been attributed to several people in leadership roles and across many different walks of life. Theologians, teachers, authors, and even poets. Someone I greatly admire, Maya Angelou, once alluded to these words as well. And I want to share this piece of wisdom that I hope will inspire all of us to support the growth of STEM in all of our communities: Black, white, brown, gay, straight, abled, differently abled, rich or poor. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. I hope you remember some of what I said today, but more importantly, I hope that you remember how you felt. I'd love to take your questions, and if we don't get to all of them, please say hello if you run into me over the next few days. I'll be on a morning panel tomorrow on the main stage, and I'll be at the NGA booth on Tuesday at 10. Thank you very much, and now let's turn this into a conversation.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tonya. This has been great. I do have some questions already from some of the audience. But just a reminder, if you do have some questions, go ahead and go to the Poll Everywhere website or text USGIF 22333. So, all right, starting first question. So you've been Deputy Director at NGA now for around 5 months. How has this role impacted how you approach leadership?
It's a great question. Thank you, Tara. So it's been an exciting 5 months, I'll say that first. I have thoroughly enjoyed getting to know the workforce at NGA. I had many opportunities along the course of my career to see what a talented team we have there, and so it's been nice to have a chance to spend some more time. As it relates to my leadership approach, the thing that I think has been highlighted even more so for me of late is the importance of partnerships. And it wasn't that I didn't understand that before, but when I think about what we're able to accomplish from our mission perspective because of the partnerships that exist, not only across the federal government, but also across academia and industry, it's been huge. And certainly something that has been left with me with respect to my leadership approach.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I know, looking through all those pictures in your slides, it was, Admiral Sharp signing another agreement. So yeah, definitely has been fostering those academic relationships. All right, I think this one's gonna be very near and dear to your heart and Dr. Nikki Markeel's heart, if you know what I'm talking about. What is NGA doing to help enhance the number of graduates in geodesy? The discipline is crucial to the future of GEOINT, and the U.S. is falling behind. Bum, bum, bum. No.
Yes. So certainly, as I noted in the talk, we have a number of educational partnerships, which we certainly are postured to be able to leverage to grow that pipeline of talent. I know that Dr. Markeel is very interested, and we had quite an engaging conversation not that long ago on this topic in particular. I really do believe that the key, though, is to tap into the pipeline at the K through 12 level with that wonderful transition to working with our university partners to be able to grow that pipeline.
Yeah, and it's just, I think that mathematics background too, right? It's not just the GIS, it's the mathematics that kind of go behind all of it.
It is exactly. And that was one of the points that Dr. Markeel and I really resonated with. My experience has been that students in that K through 12 range tend to decide early on whether or not math is for them or not. And then it starts to chart their path as to whether or not they end up in roles like this, in roles like we're talking about here. And so that is a key factor, and one that I think we can help with.
All right, that sounds great. So, in your career, what is the most memorable new technology you've seen from industry that was most exciting and surprising to you that you can talk about in this forum?
In this forum? You got a lot of constraints on
I
that,
know,
right?
I know.
One of the most memorable new technologies. Well, I'm really excited to see what we're doing in commercial imagery, and I appreciated all the discussions today on the panels, and had a chance actually to speak with one of our partners here about the work that's happening in the hyperspectral realm. So I'm excited to see that.
All right, sounds good. All right, so as a leader, and you did address some of this in your remarks, but as a leader in the IC who happens to have a STEM background and is also part of the African American community, do you have a story that you can share that highlights a milestone moment in your life that pulls leadership, STEM, and diversity that really gave you some inspiration?
Sure. So I was serving in a senior leadership position in the NRO, and I was actually leading the operations activities for the NRO at the time. And one of the things that I realized after engaging with a number of members of the workforce was that serving in that position was really not about me, that it was so much bigger than me. Because I had officers that approached me and talked to me about the fact that they aspired to hold senior leadership positions like that. And that was the moment when I realized that serving in roles like that, really, while exciting and fun, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed it, was not about specifically just me in the role, but about every person that was coming behind me that aspired to serve in a role like that. And so that was the milestone moment.
All right, and I think that too, I mean, again, I'm out of the St. Louis community, but I think, again, students seeing leaders that look like them and that they can kind of resonate, I think that that's hugely important for them to be able to.
It is hugely important. And it's part of why I spend so much of my personal time investing in the development of that next generation pipeline.
Thank you.
Because I didn't have that when I was growing up, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know anyone that looked like me that was serving, was working in engineering.
All right.
Yeah.
So again, I'm out of St. Louis, but
Yeah.
this is definitely not one for me. But now this says, can you speak to efforts that will support STEM for young students outside of St. Louis?
Sure. So I'm really excited that our HD team has been working to identify a candidate to lead our K through 12 efforts. And that will be looking more broadly outside of, across all regions of the country. And certainly helps to bolster some of the things that we've done already to date in St. Louis. So, there are other government organizations that have been leaning into that realm as well. And I'm excited that we're going to be able to lean in that way.
All right.
It's in its early stages, but I'm excited.
Okay.
And the team is probably getting tired of hearing me ask about the status.
All right. I've got some questions, and I think I might be able to combine some of them because there's a couple that seem a little similar. So, from the St. Louis perspective, okay, these are both out of St. Louis.
Okay.
And so I'm going to just kind of combine them. So, Miss Wilkerson, if you had a chance to talk to a talented 5th grade girl in St. Louis about her future, what would you say? And again, amazing presentation, Miss Wilkerson, but how is NGA looking to also, so you got your 5th grader, and then you're also your middle high school students, and again, that's kind of the same thing, especially in St. Louis, to inspire talent early. So how is NGA looking to partner with these schools?
Got it. So let me start with the 5th grade student.
Okay.
So for the 5th grade student, I would encourage them to get as much experience as they could in math and science. And I would help them to see that math is not a barrier. And I would encourage them to understand the breadth of career opportunities that exist in STEM. And I say that I would because it's something that I already do, right? So this is just part of who I am as an individual and the activities that I spend my time on outside of serving as a leader at NGA.
All right. And do you want me to go back to the other one?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I kind of combined those, but they are a little bit separate. So again, amazing presentation. How is NGA looking to partner with the middle schools and high schools, especially in St. Louis, but outside of St. Louis, to inspire talent early?
Got it. So within the St. Louis community, there is an ecosystem that already exists, and it's really exciting. My first trip out is serving in this role. That I think I spent probably more time in that sort of discussion than I did in some of the other discussions, and it was because it was just so exciting. So what exists already is several nonprofits that are working in that K through 12 range, partnering with universities and with industry partners, really in a way that is unlike what you see in many other areas. And so when you ask the question about what are we going to be doing in the middle school and high school realm, we're going to look to continue to have partnerships with those nonprofits and others in the community to make sure that we're supporting their efforts to be able to help generate that pipeline.
All right. Well, and I think that what happened in St. Louis, again, I can kind of speak to this because I've been involved with it since around 2017, is it really organically grew. And we had some of the nonprofits that were saying things, they were doing their thing, but I think we all realized that kind of capitalizing on each other's strengths would reduce the redundancy, and we'd work together to kind of go a little bit forward more.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So I think St. Louis, and so I think other communities kind of could replicate that, work together, because then you can both go a little bit further.
Yes.
In some respects.
I would agree with you, and so the model is there in St. Louis, but I wholeheartedly agree that it could be replicated in other areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so this is a little bit different, a little bit off topic here, but how are you reaching out to the Native American community to contribute to the NGA workforce?
So we have a series that focuses on minority-serving institutions, and it runs periodically information session. And so that's a way for us to tap into the full breadth of diverse universities to be able to raise awareness of NGA and the NGA job opportunities. And that's run by our human development team.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And, thinking mathematically, right?
Yes.
How do we measure, what's that quantitative, how do we quantify that positive impact that we are having on our communities?
Oh, that's a great question, especially since I'm a data person, and I just really, I really do tend to want to focus on metrics to understand how do we assess the effectiveness. I think initially for us, this is going to be, it's not going to be a concrete, quantifiable metric that we focus on, but rather where we start to see growth and engagement and increased growth and engagement across the community. And then at some point, I think we'll get to where we actually have more specific metrics to be able to gauge.
Like number of schools
Number
impacted,
of schools and
to that
that
effect.
sort of thing.
All right, okay.
Right. But when you look at programs like the neurodiverse, the federal neurodiverse workforce pilot program, we had 4 applicants come out of that pilot program. And the recent CBS special segment did highlight one of those analysts, right? And so that's a way to kind of gauge and get a sense of the effectiveness of the program as well, right? So there we have numbers, right? In other cases, I think it's going to be a little bit more anecdotal initially, and then we move into more concrete measures.
All right, well, since you did bring up the neurodiverse pilot program, I do have a couple questions for that, so let's just kind of jump
Sure.
back on those. So, and I think you might have said it just started, but when is the neurodiverse pilot going to move to main HR hiring? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense because the pilot program was run in partnership with MITRE and Melwood and resulted in 4 applicants and multiple folks coming on board. So that was done in that way. So what we are currently doing now is looking at how does this become part of more of a mainstream of our hiring practice. I would be, I couldn't give a specific date in terms of when that comes into play, but that is the effort that HD is currently working on.
Okay, well, and then this is another mathematical question here. So what has NGA put in place to measure long-term outcomes of the neurodiverse pilot program?
Oh, so as I noted earlier, right, we know the numbers, right? And I would count that as success. And it's not just the numbers, but it's having an opportunity to engage with the individuals that came on board through that pilot program and understand their experiences. And I don't know if you saw the CBS segment or not, but Morgan was the analyst that was highlighted. And I had some time to just sit down and chat with her, and it was just fabulous to understand her story, understand how the pilot worked effectively for her, and the feedback that she has for us and things that we can consider as we move this outside of a pilot program into more of a permanent hiring structure.
More of a mainstream, all right. Okay, well, this is a different topic.
Sure.
How do companies or industry become more involved with some of these programs that NGA has already established with academia, the colleges and universities? And speaking as an industry person, I'd like to also know, so.
Great. So a couple of easy ways to become involved is to work with our OCC team as well as our research team. Some of the activities are in partnership with research, and some of the other activities are coming through our Office of Communications.
Okay. So corporate OCC
corporate communications
and research.
And research.
Okay,
yes.
super. Okay.
And I would be remiss if I didn't include our human development team in that as well.
Okay.
They're all partnering to make sure that we're covering down on all bases.
Okay.
So if there's interest, that's where you want to reach in.
All right. And Kathy Weaver will be at the booth, right? No.
And she is here.
I know. All right. How is the agency ensuring continued engagement with its liberal arts trained analyst workforce while at the same time promoting the important STEM initiatives?
I love that question because I know that I chatted a lot about STEM, but I think there's STEM in everything that we do. And there's an opportunity for all majors to lean into STEM. I had a chance just a little bit ago to meet with one of the groups of students who had a poster out front, And it was the students from Harris-Stowe State University. And what I loved most about the conversation was that there was a diversity of disciplines represented there in focusing on their project from a geospatial perspective, right? There was a student majoring in math, a student majoring in biology, one focused in information science and computer technology, and a political science student, right? And so what that really speaks to is the fact that it's not only about STEM, right? It is about the breadth of disciplines that are needed for our geospatial intelligence activities.
All right, sounds great. All right, this is more of being a woman in the intelligence community. So, as a woman in the IC and in mathematics, what advice would you give to just other women to impacting the future of the IC in analytics and mathematics?
So what I would share as a bit of advice is to lean into opportunities. And I share that because I think sometimes it's easy for us to discount what we should be involved in versus what the opportunities that are presenting themselves are. And so what I would encourage all to do is to lean in, whether or not it's something that you think that neatly aligns with your background or not, right? If you're being asked or you're interested, there's definitely a path forward for you. And I think oftentimes, as a woman, right, just speaking as a woman, I think oftentimes we tend to sometimes self-select out, right, unnecessarily. And so it's really important that we lean into opportunities.
Yeah, not minimize our strengths. We're always thinking that we need to be more than
Exactly.
what we are.
Yes. I have some examples of that in my career, right?
All right. This is interesting from kind of an academia and NGA. So how is NGA influencing academia to provide new and innovative educational content to better support NGA missions?
Great. So in some cases, in the case of Harris-Stowe State University, we actually have a visiting professor there who's helping with the curriculum development. And we are also exploring that same conversation with other universities to see where we can help to influence the development of the curriculum. And what we've seen to date is that there's really there's a lot of openness to having that sort of partnership and collaboration.
All right. Okay, so I got one last kind of question here. And I guess I want to keep this positive because I've been very involved in some of this community, but back to St. Louis, to St. Louis and the new campus, but how is NGA, and I do think that NGA is doing a great job at this, but how is NGA mitigating the risk that NGA's St. Louis campus could lead to gentrification and potentially economically displace the same minority communities that they hope to actually recruit back?
Yeah, so we certainly are aware of that as a concern and are looking to ensure that we continue to partner with the local community as a key stakeholder. But we are aware of the concern.
Yeah. Well, and I think that OCC, I mean, from going from the time when I think the decision was first made by Robert, that I think, you know, it's snowballed differently a very good, positive direction. And I think with these nonprofits and the community people kind of coming out there, I think things are definitely looking up. So
that is definitely my sense in my limited period of time of 5 months. Certainly my visit out to St. Louis, where I got a chance to engage with the whole of the ecosystem, there was definitely a lot of momentum and a lot of excitement about the new facility coming up and all that it has to offer.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think the positives definitely outweigh the negatives.
I certainly agree with that.
All right. Well, thank you so much,
Yes, no
Deputy
worries.
Director Wilkerson.
Okay.